You already know the foods that help your arteries, but almost nobody talks about what's in your cup. And that matters more than you'd think, because what you drink hits your bloodstream faster than almost anything you eat. No digestion to slow it down. It's absorbed, and it's working on your blood vessels within the hour. Now, I want to be upfront about something before we start. None of these 6 drinks are going to scrub your arteries clean like a pipe cleaner. That's not how plaque works, and if anyone tells you that, be skeptical. What these drinks actually do is calm inflammation, help your blood vessels relax and widen, and in a couple of cases, actually show measurable improvement on an ultrasound. That's the real claim, and it's still a big deal. Let's go through the 6, starting with the one that has the most direct mechanism behind it. 6 beetroot juice beets are loaded with dietary nitrate, and your body converts that nitrate into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the exact molecule your artery lining uses to relax and widen. Less nitric oxide, stiffer arteries. More of it, better blood flow. Researchers at Queen Mary University of London tested this directly. They gave over 100 healthy volunteers about 140 milliliters of nitrate-rich beetroot juice every morning for a week, and compared it to a juice with the nitrate stripped out. The group getting the real nitrate showed higher nitric oxide markers in their blood and lower markers of vascular inflammation. Here's the honest caveat. Most of these beetroot trials are short-term, and a few studies looking at direct blood flow to muscle tissue didn't find a strong effect. So this is more established for blood pressure and inflammation than for anything like plaque reversal. Practical takeaway: a small glass, around half a cup, in the morning is the dose used in most of these trials. If the earthy taste puts you off, mixing it with a splash of lemon cuts the flavor without adding sugar. 5. Hibiscus tea. Hibiscus tea has one of the more consistent blood pressure track records of anything on this list. A meta-analysis pooling multiple randomized trials found hibiscus lowered systolic blood pressure by around 7 points compared to placebo. And one well-controlled trial found that reduction was similar in size to what you'd see from a first-line blood pressure medication. Why does that matter for arteries specifically? Because high blood pressure is one of the main things that damages the artery lining in the first place. Lower the pressure, and you slow down that damage. There's also early evidence on arterial stiffness itself, though the caveat here is real. Those stiffness studies have been small, sometimes fewer than 20 people, so treat that part as promising, not proven. Practical takeaway: 3 cups a day was the dose used in the strongest trials. Brew it hot or cold. No sugar needed. The tartness is the point. 4. Green tea. Green tea's main actor is a catechin called EGGG, and it's been studied specifically for its effect on the artery wall, not just blood pressure. The most convincing evidence here isn't a small trial, it's a population study out of France that followed over 6,500 people and directly measured plaque in their carotid arteries with ultrasound. Women drinking 3 or more cups of tea a day had a plaque rate of about 34%, compared to 44% in women who drank none. That's a meaningful gap, and it held up even after adjusting for other risk factors. The catch: this is an observational study, not a randomized trial, so we can't say the tea caused the difference. People who drink more tea may also live healthier in other ways. But lab studies on the same catechins do show them directly reducing oxidized LDL uptake, which lines up with a real mechanism, not just a coincidence. Practical takeaway: 2 to 3 cups a day, brewed, not bottled. Bottled green tea drinks usually have a fraction of the actual catechin content. 3. Cocoa dark chocolate drink. This is the one people are always happy to hear about. Cocoa flavanols have one of the most well-replicated effects on endothelial function of anything in this list. A meta-analysis pooling 18 separate trials found cocoa flavanols improved flow-mediated dilation. That's a direct, measurable test of how well your artery lining relaxes, by just over 1 percentage point compared to control. That might sound small, but flow-mediated dilation is a recognized predictor of future cardiovascular risk, so a consistent improvement here is meaningful. Interesting detail: the effect wasn't "more is always better." It followed a curve, with the benefit peaking around 700 milligrams of flavanols and tapering off at higher doses. The catch: most commercial chocolate and cocoa powder is processed in ways that strip out a lot of the flavanols. Regular milk chocolate isn't going to get you here. Practical takeaway: look for cocoa powder labeled non-alkalized or natural process, and mix a couple tablespoons into warm water or milk. Dutch processed cocoa loses much of the benefit. 2. Coffee. Coffee is the most debated drink on this list, and I want to give you the honest, mixed picture instead of pretending it's settled. A South Korean study of over 25,000 adults found moderate coffee drinkers, 3 to 5 cups a day, had a lower prevalence of coronary artery calcium buildup than non-drinkers. A separate Brazilian cohort of over 4,400 people found something similar in non-smokers specifically, drinking more than 3 cups a day. But it's not universal. A U.S. study following almost 2,000 adults found no clear dose-response pattern at all. And a more recent genetic study, using a method that removes lifestyle confounding, found no significant link between coffee and plaque once genetics were accounted for. So here's the honest summary. Moderate coffee drinking doesn't appear to harm your arteries, and several large studies suggest it may even correlate with less calcium buildup. But the evidence isn't fully consistent, and we can't say coffee actively reverses anything. Practical takeaway: if you already drink coffee, this isn't a reason to stop. If you don't, this isn't strong enough evidence to start. Watch what you put in it. Sugar and cream can undo whatever benefit is there. 1. Pomegranate juice. This is the one with the most striking single result on this entire list, and also the one that needs the most context. Researchers gave patients with existing narrowing in their carotid arteries about 50 milliliters of pomegranate juice a day, less than a quarter cup, for 1 year. The control group's artery wall thickness increased by about 9% over that year, which is the plaque continuing to build, as expected. The pomegranate group's artery wall thickness decreased by up to 30%, compared to their own starting point. Their blood pressure also dropped, and markers of cholesterol oxidation dropped dramatically. Now, the honest caveats: this was measured against the patient's own baseline. The sample size was small, and it hasn't been replicated at that scale since. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but one striking study is a signal to pay attention to, not a guarantee. There's also a real practical concern. Pomegranate juice is still juice, meaning sugar, and a real glucose spike if you drink too much. The dose that showed benefit was small, about a quarter cup a day, not a full glass. Practical takeaway: keep it to 50 to 100 milliliters a day, taken with a meal rather than on its own, so the fat and protein in the meal blunt the sugar spike. If you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, a standardized pomegranate extract may be the safer route. None of these 6 drinks work in isolation from the rest of your life. Every study behind them was done on top of, or compared against, some baseline diet and lifestyle, not as a replacement for it. If the rest of your diet is high in processed carbohydrates and you're not moving much, no drink on this list is going to outrun that. Think of these as support for the real work: lower inflammation, better blood sugar control, more movement, not a shortcut around it. So if you're picking a place to start, Hibiscus tea and beetroot juice have the most consistent blood pressure evidence, cocoa has the strongest direct artery lining data, and pomegranate juice has the single most striking result, with the biggest asterisk next to it.